The door whispered shut with a sound too final, too deliberate. And then silence. Brandon's breath caught as he realized it wasn't his girlfriend who lingered in the golden light of that alien living room. It was her mother. Her eyes, four of them, shimmering like molten silver, locked on it with a look that was neither welcome nor warning. Her lips curved, low and deliberate, as she whispered words that made his pulse stumble. Finally alone. Brandon had seen photographs in the data streams, but nothing prepared him for stepping inside an alien home that looked less like a house and more like a living dream. The walls curved upward like the inside of a seashell, glowing faintly with veins of gold that pulsed as if carrying a heartbeat. Light wasn't cast by lamps, but by suspended orbs that shifted color with the rhythm of the room, filling the air with warm, honey-golden radiance. Every surface gleamed with elegance, a kind of effortless luxury that made his boots feel heavy, out of place, like he'd tracked mud into a palace. The furniture was both delicate and strong, grown instead of built. Seats that molded themselves to the shape of the body, tables that shimmered like carved crystal, each edge catching fragments of the golden light. The air carried a faint sweetness, like blossoms after rain, laced with an undertone of ozone that reminded him with every breath that this wasn't Earth. But it wasn't the architecture that made his chest tighten. It was the silence, not the absence of sound, but a silence that felt aware. The portraits on the walls moved as if alive, painted ancestors with shimmering eyes that seemed to follow him, measuring every hesitant step. And then came the presence that shifted everything. Two figures entered from the far side of the chamber. Violet skin shimmered in the golden glow, so luminous it almost hurt to look directly. One moved with sharp, storm-like grace, the other with cautious elegance. Mother and daughter, side by side. Brandon's pulse quickened. He had crossed galaxies for this moment, but now, standing inside this world of living light and silent judgment, he felt suddenly small and completely unprepared. She stepped forward first, not the mother, but the daughter, Navara. Even in the golden light, Brandon could see how her presence softened the air. Her luminous skin shimmered with patterns that pulsed faint silver and gold, the language of her kind. Emotions written not in words, but in living light. He'd seen it before through grainy video calls across star systems, but here in person it was overwhelming. The glow of her pulse matched his own heartbeat, as if his very presence was reflected across her skin. For a moment, all the strangeness of the room disappeared. The whispering portraits, the alien furniture, the quiet hum of ancestral judgment, none of it mattered. It was just her, the girl he had once met on a noisy docking platform, elbow deep in a broken hyperdrive, laughing when he made a joke about fixing ships with duct tape. The girl who had stayed up through entire station nights talking with him about everything, machinery, old Earth songs, and the terrifying hope of building a life with someone not like you, but meant for you. Her eyes found him now, and it wasn't surprise or nervousness that passed through her expression. It was relief, the kind that comes after holding your breath too long. "Brandon," she whispered, the way his name fit in her accent, making it feel almost sacred. He exhaled shakily, realizing only then how tightly his hands had curled around the strap of his duffel. "Told you I'd come," he said, voice rougher than he intended. A flicker of color danced across her skin, silver streaked with warm amber. Happiness laced with something softer. Vulnerability. She reached for him, hesitant at first, then surer, her fingers brushing against his. The contact was electric, as though the room itself leaned in to witness the moment. It was nothing grand, nothing scripted, no dramatic speeches, no exaggerated gestures. Just two hands finding each other in a room that seemed designed to test them. But for Brandon, it was enough. More than enough. Because in that single glance, in the way her eyes refused to let go of his, he remembered why he had traveled across galaxies. Not for approval, not for tradition, not even for the promise of adventure. He had come for her. And in that moment, with the golden light painting her skin like a living constellation, he knew he would face whatever waited behind those watchful doors, as long as she was beside him. It began as a flicker. Brandon noticed at first where her fingers rested against his, a ripple of light that shimmered across Navara's violet skin, shifting in delicate spirals. At first, he thought it was random, a trick of the golden lamps above. But then the pattern slowed, matched his pulse, and held it. He froze, hardly daring to breathe. Her people called it a bond pattern, a living map of emotion that revealed itself only when two heart rhythms dared to align on their video calls. She'd explained it shyly, as if afraid the concept would sound too strange to his human ears. It doesn't happen easily, she had warned him, and never by accident. Yet here it was, unfolding on her skin like starlight poured into veins. The glow deepened, soft waves of silver and gold chasing each other across her collarbone, her throat, the curve of her cheek. Every flicker felt like a confession, happiness, nervousness, longing, and then, impossibly, he felt his own body answer. His heartbeat slowed, sinking to hers. His breath matched the rhythm of her inhale. It was as though the room itself had conspired to weave them together, pulse for pulse, breath for breath. Brandon's throat tightened. "It's real," he whispered, more to himself than to her. Navara's lips curved into a trembling smile. "I told you," she said softly. "The bond doesn't lie." For all the grandeur of her world, the crystalline spires, the judgmental portraits, the ancient rituals waiting to test him, nothing felt more powerful than this. Not alien technology, not family traditions. Just the undeniable hum of two lives locking into one frequency. It was terrifying. It was exhilarating. And it was utterly human. Despite how alien it looked, she leaned closer, her forehead nearly touching his. Their joined hands trembled, not from fear, but from the weight of something too vast for words. Brandon swallowed hard, fighting the instinct to joke, to hide his nerves. Instead, he let the silence hold him, the kind of silence that spoke louder than any declaration. In the shifting glow, he realized something. Whatever test awaited him in this house, whatever judgment her family planned, he had already passed the only one that mattered, because she chose him. And, against all odds, the universe itself seemed to agree. The bond glow still shimmered faintly across Navara's skin when another presence cut through the warmth like a shadow across firelight. Her mother. Matriarch Velora did not enter the room. She claimed it, each step radiating authority. Taller than her daughter, her posture carried the calm of someone who had spent a lifetime commanding respect without asking for it. Her violet skin shimmered with patterns far more intricate than Navara's, an older language of emotion that Brandon could barely read. But every curve of silver and crimson told him one thing: caution, evaluation, restraint. Her four eyes studied him in silence, the kind of silence that made his throat dry and his chest tighten. Brandon straightened, trying to appear calm, though every instinct screamed that this was not just an introduction. This was a trial. "You are the Earthborn," Velora finally said, her voice low, measured, carrying a subtle vibration that seemed to hum against his bones. "The one my daughter has chosen." Her phrasing wasn't welcome, not acceptance, not joy. Chosen, like a risk she hadn't approved of. Navara's hand tightened around his, her patterns flickering with nervous gold. "Mother," she said softly, "this is Brandon, the one I told you." "I know who he is," Velora interrupted. Her gaze never left him. "The question is whether he understands what we are." The words landed heavy, pressing like gravity. Brandon's first impulse was to crack a joke, to diffuse the weight pressing down on him. But the warning in Navara's eyes stopped him. She was pleading silently, "Don't make light of this." So instead, he met Velora's stare and forced his voice steady. "I don't know everything," he admitted, "but I know her, and that's enough for me." Velora's expression didn't soften. If anything, the patterns across her skin deepened into unreadable crimson spirals. Behind them, the whispering portraits on the walls stirred. Painted eyes followed every movement, every word. Brandon had the unsettling sense that it wasn't only Velora testing him. It was an entire lineage. Navara leaned closer, whispering so faintly only he could hear. "She will push you. Don't let her see doubt." But doubt was already there, gnawing at the edge of his confidence. And as Velora circled them slowly, her presence filling the golden-lit room with a predatory grace, Brandon realized this was only the beginning. Later, When the formal words had passed and Velora retreated into another chamber, the silence returned. But this silence felt different, heavy with what had not been said. Brandon sat stiffly on one of the crystalline seats, his duffel at his feet, like a forgotten relic from a smaller life. Navara moved closer, her presence a contrast to the weight her mother had left behind. She didn't speak at first. She simply lowered herself beside him, her hand brushing against his, as though testing whether he might pull away. He didn't. He couldn't. The bond pattern returned, soft and flickering, a glow that spread gently across her arm where it touched his. The light was less intense than before, but somehow warmer, more private. Not a declaration for room, but a secret shared between two hearts. Brandon exhaled slowly. Your mother, his voice trailed off, heavy with all the words he couldn't shape. I know, Navara murmured. Her gaze lowered, lashes trembling against the violet glow of her skin. She tests everything. Everyone. Especially me. He turned, studying her profile in the golden light. Strong, but not unshaken. Confident, yet fragile in ways she rarely showed. That contradiction, that was what undid him every time. He reached out, hesitated, then let his fingers trail lightly along hers. Her skin was warm, almost electric, as though her body was built from starlight itself. She didn't flinch. Instead, she leaned closer, their shoulders brushing, their breaths unconsciously sinking. You don't have to prove anything, Brandon said quietly. Not to me, not even to her. Her lips curved in a soft, almost broken smile. But I do, because you are here now, because you matter. The words caught him off guard. For a moment, he forgot the weight of the portraits, the scrutiny of Velora, even the alien grandeur pressing on his chest. All he felt was her hand tightening in his, her light dancing across his skin, as if claiming him in the oldest language of her people. It wasn't a kiss. It wasn't even an embrace. Just silence, touch, and breath shared in the golden air. Yet Brandon's heart pounded, as though he had crossed another galaxy. And for the first time since stepping into this house, he felt steady, not because he belonged here, but because beside her he didn't need to. The reprieve did not last. The chamber doors parted once more, and Velora returned, her presence filling the air like a storm contained inside walls of glass. The glow of her patterns had shifted. They no longer carried calm evaluation, but something sharper, edged with crimson. She stopped at the center of the room, her four eyes sweeping across them both. Enough of courtesies, she said. Now comes truth. Brandon felt Navara tense beside him. She rose, standing between him and her mother as if to shield him, but Velora's voice cut through. Step aside, daughter. This is not your test. It is his. Brandon's stomach nodded. He forced himself to stand, though his knees felt unsteady under the golden light. What kind of test? He asked. Velora's lips curved, not in amusement, but in something that felt like inevitability. The test of bond, of loyalty, of restraint. Any creature can claim affection in peace. But under pressure, under temptation, that is where truth lives. The room shifted. The crystalline walls hummed with low vibration, and Brandon felt the air thicken almost charged. The portraits went silent, their painted eyes glowing faintly, as if even the ancestors were holding their breath. Velora moved closer, circling him like a predator, gauging weakness. You have touched my daughter, shared light with her. But do you understand what that means? To bond with one of us is not to claim joy alone. It is to be seen tested, tempted. Brandon's pulse hammered. He could feel Navara's fear in the way her hand clutched his sleeve, but Velora's gaze pinned him, unyielding. Show me, Velora whispered, stepping closer still, that what you feel is not fragile, that when desire is turned against you, you will not falter. Brandon swallowed hard. He understood then. This wasn't a conversation. It was a trial by fire, not of fists or weapons, but his own heart. And somewhere deep inside he knew, if he failed he would lose Navara, not because she would stop loving him, but because her world, her mother, would tear them apart. The chamber darkened until only the crystalline spires glowed, pulsing with rhythm like a heartbeat. The air thickened, laced with an energy Brandon could feel on his skin, alive, insistent, impossible to ignore. Velora circled him slowly, her patterns shifting into spirals of deep gold and crimson. It wasn't random. Every flicker pulled at him, each wave sinking dangerously close to his own pulse. His breath hitched as warmth flooded his chest, then his limbs, like invisible currents threading into his nerves. It wasn't attraction alone. It was chemical, biological, engineered. A test of temptation. Brandon gritted his teeth. Don't move. Don't give in. Velora's voice lowered to a near whisper. Do you feel it? The resonance? Stronger than what you share with my daughter. Deeper, more complete. This is what she cannot give you. The words struck like poison, not because he believed them, but because his body did. His pulse betrayed him, hammering faster, his skin prickling with heat. Navara's hand slipped into his, trembling. Her patterns glowed faint, fractured silver. Fear, hurt, hope all tangled together. Brandon, she breathed, a plea more than a word. That broke him free. He tore his gaze from Velora's hypnotic glow and fixed it on Navara. Not the glow, not the patterns, but her, the girl who once laughed so hard she snorted synthetic beer through her nose. The girl who worked until her hands ached, who admitted her doubts in quiet moments no one else ever heard. Stop, Brandon said, his voice hoarse but steady. He squeezed Navara's hand until she looked at him, her wide eyes shimmering with tears. This isn't real. You are real. Velora halted, her patterns flaring in sharp red. For the first time, she looked unsettled. Brandon stepped closer to Navara, pulling her fully to his side. His voice carried now, rising above the hum of the room. You can flood the air, bend my nerves, try to twist me into something else, but it doesn't matter, because no force in this galaxy can make me choose anyone over her. The silence that followed was absolute. The portraits, the spires, even the hum of energy seemed to pause, as if the stars themselves were holding their breath. The silence broke not with anger, but with something softer. Velora's patterns shifted, the sharp reds melting into deep blues, then quiet silver. For a long moment, she simply stared at the two of them, her daughter's hand clasped firmly in Brandon's, the glow of their bond still alive and undeniable. You resist well, she said at last, her voice quieter, edged with something that almost sounded like respect. Even when every force urged surrender, you chose her. Brandon didn't answer. He was too busy watching Navara. The way relief softened her shoulders, the way her patterns spilled into gold so bright, they lit her face like dawn. For him, that was the only judgment that mattered. Velora's gaze lingered a heartbeat longer. Then she turned toward the crystalline walls. With a gesture, the chamber's light returned to its soft golden glow, the oppressive charge fading like a storm retreating beyond the horizon. Then it is decided, she said. The bond is yours to keep. Whether it survives the weight of this world is no longer my test to give. Navara exhaled sharply, half laugh, half sob, and pressed her forehead against Brandon's shoulder. He wrapped an arm around her, steadying her, though his own knees still felt unsteady. The portraits on the walls shimmered. For the first time, their painted eyes softened, no longer judgmental but approving, as though generations of voices had finally chosen silence, or perhaps acceptance. Brandon glanced around, trying to find words, but none came. None were needed. He wasn't fluent in their rituals, their laws, or their sacred tests. He never would be, but he had passed the one measure no culture could deny, staying true when it mattered most. Later, when the chamber doors opened and the house filled again with quiet life, Navara took his hand and whispered, See, you belong here. He smiled faintly, shaking his head. No, I belong with you. That's the difference. And as they stepped together into the golden halls of a future neither of them could fully predict, Brandon realized that love, real love, didn't need approval, didn't need tradition, didn't even need words. It only needed two hearts that refused to let go. If this story pulled you into another world, don't forget to support it. Hit that like button, share it with someone who loves sci-fi romance, and make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the next journey among the stars. Your support helps me keep creating these immersive stories for you. Sparkles.